Coming up next on the CHGO Cubs podcast, presented by Toyota and Bet365. Today is Rank Week. We are ranking the top 10 what-ifs in Chicago Cubs history. What? CHGO Cubs next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs podcast, driven by Toyota. Let's go places in Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. Use the code CHGO365 at sign up. Hi, everybody. Luke Stuckmeyer, Joey Kostropoulos. We have Sarah running the ones and twos. It's the Stuck and Joey show today as we go through Rank Week. This is one of the slower weeks of the year, to be factual.
Summer's in full swing. Nothing wrong with that.
But Rank Week makes it tolerable because I like to think of things in numbers. I don't like math, but I like to think of things in numbers. So we're going to start with number 10. It's the what ifs, right? Biggest what ifs in Cubs history. We'll start with 10 and we'll work our way down to number 1. If we have time, we'll do some honorable mentions that maybe didn't quite make our list, but you could certainly put in a list if you expand it out to 15 or more. All right, so number 10. 10th biggest what if in Cubs history from our perspective. What if Mark Cuban had purchased the Chicago Cubs?
Luke, this is a great way to start the list. I love the fact that when it comes to hypotheticals, you call me in from the bullpen on this
That's
one.
Right.
And if Mark Cuban had purchased the Chicago Cubs, now from what I understand, he put in a bidding for the team in 2007, right?
He did, yeah.
And
he wanted it.
Ricketts ends up purchasing the team in 2009. So does a whole lot change in terms of them trying to push it forward to try and finally get that World Series? I don't think it changes because I think Cuban would have been a very aggressive, ambitious owner. We all know with the Dallas Mavericks, their locker rooms would have been incredible. The renovations on the internal of Wrigley would have been fantastic. But it does open up a can of worms of a lot of different questions of what would the new version of Wrigleyville actually look like. I want to start there before we go to the team. What do you think the new version of Wrigleyville would have looked like?
Shark Tank would have been live from the ballpark. That would have been the first thing. You know, people have been pitching their ideas to Mark Cuban. He wanted to buy the team for all the same reasons the Ricketts family did. Some financial, some obviously more emotionally tied than that. He used to go when he went to Indiana. He would like to make road trips to Wrigley Field, loved Wrigley Field and the vibe and all that stuff, and knew that it was a hidden gem. I agree with you when I say the first part of Ricketts' ownership probably wouldn't have been that much different than Cuban ownership. I don't know how it could be any better. If you had any problems with the Ricketts family up to 2016, I'm not sure what they were. Maybe they were political or something like that. But if you're talking strictly baseball and rebuilding Wrigley Field, they put all their money into rebuilding Wrigley Field. I assume Cuban would have done that, right?
100%.
He would have done a lot of those things.
The pockets were deep, and I think in terms of the neighborhood, I think he would have had the same push to turn the neighborhood over the same way that the Ricketts family did.
You know what would have been different? The flair, the eyeballs. Like the Ricketts didn't do any of this with like fireworks and flair. Mark Cuban is a showman, if anything.
Right.
If you've ever seen a Mavericks game when he was the owner of the Mavericks, it's like they've mic'd up the ball hitting the rim so loud, then when it goes bonk off the rim, you think like the building's caving in. And it's like a rock concert in timeouts. Like some of that charm maybe of Wrigley Field would have changed, and some would say it already has under Ricketts. But I think as far as pouring money in, the Ricketts did up to 2016. I don't know too many people through the World Series that had problems with the Ricketts family.
And I think that's probably where the similarities end, right? Because then if you look a little bit forward, obviously they did have some human resource problems with the Dallas Mavericks franchise while he was the owner of the Dallas Mavericks. We can't get away from that. But if we move it a little bit closer, before we just even get on the field, would have Mark Cuban have been like behind home plate screaming at the umpire every single home game the same way that he would attend his Dallas Mavericks games. What kind of an owner do you think he would have been?
Yes.
Because he seems like a guy who likes to be a bit participatory.
I'll tell you who he would have been. You remember when Theo sat in the outfield in the bleachers with the glasses on?
Yeah.
We would have seen Cuban in the bleachers.
Would Cuban and Lou Piniella gotten along?
No. We would have seen Cuban by the on-deck circle a lot more. We would have seen him doing a lot more stuff on then Comcast Sportsnet, CSN, NBC Sports Chicago, because he would have been purchasing part of that too. And I think all of those things would have had a little more flair. Now, he offered, his bid was the highest bid, $1.3 billion. But it's got to get cleared. Baseball ownership's different. It's got to get cleared by the commissioner and the owners. And the commissioner was Bud Selig. And he's Jerry Reinsdorf's best buddy. And if you think Jerry Reinsdorf wanted Mark Cuban coming into the Cubs when he already felt like little brother, I can guarantee you that was Mark Cuban could have offered $2 billion, and baseball would have said,
So the next question that I have in this what if scenario is we all know Mark Cuban, front-facing personality in many ways with the Dallas Mavericks, enjoyed and reveled in perhaps being the face of the franchise when he had quite a more quiet, go about his business star like Dirk Nowitzki. My next question for you is, would Mark Cuban have been able to land Theo Epstein? Because I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say no, because I think the reason why Theo said yes to the Ricketts family wasn't just money, but Ricketts also said, I'm getting out of the way. You are literally running the show and calling the shots. This is my checkbook, and let's talk again in 6 months.
It's tough. Cuban's a smart businessman. And when you see somebody that can do something like that, we'll never know the answer to that. Would Theo have come here? Would Madden have come here? Jed, all of them. Like, we don't know the answer. Do I think he would have saved Wrigley Field and rebuilt Wrigley Field? Yes. Would they have won the World Series? We'll never know. We'll never know.
Yeah.
And so that is why it is number 10 on our list. Number 9, what if Greg Maddux never left via free agency? Well, now this one hits to the core of my childhood.
I was going to say, you're setting me up, but you take this one first.
This one, okay. He left as a 26-year-old Cy Young winner. He was really good when he broke onto the scene, but by 26 years old, he's the Cy Young winner. He's already done the sliding across the tarp on the first ever night game, all of those things. It was the first of his 4 Cy Youngs. And then it got to the point where Larry Himes, who was the GM, apparently made an offer, but he was offering more like money for a good pitcher, not a superstar pitcher. Well, we all know Greg Maddux, I personally consider him easily one of the 5 greatest pitchers of all time. Easy. Some say maybe the greatest pitcher of all time, because he did it by literally pitching, not throwing, pitching. And what he did was incredible. So Himes makes this offer, and Maddux was looking for more money and wanted to stay here, but the Cubs weren't interested in bucking up the big money back then. Sound familiar? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, he would have retired. He would have gone into the Hall of Fame as a Cub. That's the first thing.
He would have been Ray Bork is what would have happened. He'd be on year 20 or 21, and he'd be ring chasing because the great, wonderful Greg Maddux wouldn't have a ring on his finger. And I'm with you, man. I think Greg Maddux and maybe Randy Johnson, I think, are the 2 greatest pitchers I've ever watched in my lifetime live, right? And we're all under the constraints of Father Time, so I can't go that much farther back. But in my opinion, if Greg Maddux had never left the Cubs, I mean, this is like my formidable years of being a Cubs fan. Coming home from school, it's the 7th or 8th inning, and Jim Bollinger has given up the lead. Yeah. Jose Guzman has given up the lead. Kevin Foster has given us all the hope in the world and not working out. I mean, I don't know. I guess like the other question would be, if they had signed Greg Maddux, would they have been more open to signing other players other than Jeff Blauser in the 90s? And I don't see it happening. So I think Greg Maddux would have been an amazing pitcher on a terrible team. And I don't know. Maybe we'd be better. Maybe 98, do we have a shot if Greg Maddux is our pitcher in 98? I
agree that he would have still been a great pitcher, because some people say, well, it's the organization, it's the manager, it's the fit. He got to pitch with Smoltz. He got this, all those great pitchers that the Braves had.
The tutelage of Leo Mazzoni, right?
And he got to be there with Bobby Cox and yada, yada, yada. And would it have been different with the Cubs? He was the Cy Young. The question is, how would he have impacted a young Kerry Wood even more?
Yeah.
Right? Like, does Kerry Wood approach the game differently? Do other guys, like, he came back in 2004, and when he came back in 2004, it was too late. It was too late to right that wrong. So Greg Maddux, what happens if he never leaves? That is number 9 on our greatest what ifs in Chicago Cubs history. Number 8, what if the 1969 Cubs didn't collapse? Okay.
So for those scoring at home, just really quick, to add some context to this,
Neither
right?
was I.
Well, neither of us were alive. But here's what we have. We have in September the Cubs go 9-17. They lose 11 of their first 12 games of the month. Can you imagine doing post-game pods going 1-11 to kick off September, Luke?
No.
We then would not be alive. The Mets surge, meanwhile, they went 23-7 in the month. While the Cubs faltered, they blew a 7-game lead over the Mets. It completely evaporated. It ended up being 8 games behind the Mets. They went from 7 up to 8 back. And I look, the only thing that I could probably say is, for all the sad dads out there, do we have happier dads and happier uncles and aunts and those people that had to live through that time and be branded with that type of trauma and scar? Would they feel that certain way if they don't blow that lead in 69?
This one has another, like, a little A and B next to it, because it's also like, what if they weren't put in the Eastern Division? This was the first year of divisional play in baseball. It was just National League, American League. And the Mets, who were fairly new, I think this was like their 8th season in baseball, had never finished higher than 9th place. So nobody expected the quote-unquote miracle Mets to do this anyways. And, of course, there's the story about the Cubs actually playing the Mets, and the black cat comes into the on-deck circle. Now, if you want to believe in that sort of stuff and Billy Goats and all that, whatever. All I know is most people probably blame part of the collapse, at least on the Cubs side, on Leo DeRocher, the manager, pushing his players too hard, playing them too much, and they were gassed and they ran out of gas. Sure. But the other team still has to be spectacular. And the Mets went 23-7. They won 38 of their final 49 games.
That's a crazy run
for a team that had never finished better than 9th. So I don't know. Let's say they don't collapse and they beat the Mets, or they hold on just barely. Do they beat the Orioles in the World Series? Because the Mets beat the Orioles 4-1. The Orioles were the powerhouse team. That was the team everybody expected to win the World Series. I don't know if everybody expected the Cubs to get there and beat them. But now, considering this lucky run that the Mets went on and the miracle Mets and all this stuff, you look at it and say, maybe the Orioles were primed for a team like that. Maybe they were primed for a Cubs team with Ron Santo. All I know is, if the Cubs don't collapse in 69, Ron Santo has a lot less hate for the Mets the rest of his life.
And I will also say there's a lot more probably sons and daughters, in our case, uncles, named Ron or Santo, right? I mean, he is a legend in this town. You can't get around that one. And also, that maybe opens up the door to maybe Ron Santo make the Hall of Fame a little bit sooner.
Ooh.
If he becomes a World Series champion.
If they win the World Series. That's a good one. See, so now there's A, B, and C. Maybe Santo's an earlier Hall of Famer.
Right. And the large part about thinking about these moments that I'm not a part of because I wasn't breathing the oxygen in the air is, if you go 9-17, and let's say you lose the World Series to the Orioles, I guess you have the pennant. You take the pennant off of this. And part of this exercise, specifically for when we're talking about this and you're watching as Cubs fans, is how do you take your trauma, right? Like these things, you know, the black cats, the Billy Goats, 69, we're getting into a couple more of them as we move along this list here, is like, would you, now that we have a World Series title, would you trade it all? Would you trade some of this trauma and take some of it away and have them be more successful somehow? And I don't know if I would.
For me, I enjoyed the trauma that they suffered in 69 because I wasn't there.
Yes.
So it only added to the lore of how great it became in 2016 was only bigger because of the Black Cat and the 69 Cubs.
Sorry, Dad.
We'll go next down the list. It'll be another old one coming back that could have also impacted the Cubs in the 60s. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Hey, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code CHGO365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. There's also the MLB early payout offer. With the 365 early payout offer, you're a winner if your team gets up 5 runs, get up 5 runs ahead with an instant payout and straight bets on a parlay. Selections marked as winners. Download the app and use code CHGO365 when you sign up. That's right. Breaking news from 365, Bet365. Customers now get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Use the code CHGO365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Must be 21 plus. If you or someone has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER in app only.
Hey, baseball fans, if you're thinking about upgrading your drive this season, Toyota's 2025 lineup has something you better look at. There's the RAV4, the versatile, reliable, and always ready for adventure vehicle. Grand Highlander, plenty of room, super comfortable, great for families. Looking for efficiency, the Corolla's got you covered. Smart, stylish, and of course, easy on gas. And if you need something tougher, don't forget the Tacoma. Serious durability there. Summer starts here. So visit your local dealer, find your deal today. You can check out the full lineup at Toyota.com or stop by your local Chicagoland Toyota dealership. Toyota, let's go places. And don't forget, by the way, the Camry. Oh, sleek and packed with performance.
I drove a lot of Camrys.
All right, great time to sign up to be a CHGO diehard. Cubs ready to make this push to the playoffs and beyond, maybe the World Series again. Become a CHGO diehard. Upgrade your fandom today. Get our exclusive written content. You get a free t-shirt you can pick out from the merch store, plus discounts on the merch and much, much more. Go to allchgo.com for the latest information on how you can join the thousands of diehards already in our family and community. We can't wait to connect with you on an even greater level. All right, we're back on rank week, the biggest what-ifs in Cubs history. We just had, what if the old 69 Cubs hadn't collapsed? It's a big what if. I got another one that's a little more our age, Joey. Number 7, what if the Cubs had acquired Justin Verlander instead of Jose Quintana? This one, I think, is one of the biggest regrets of the Theo Epstein era.
One of the most difficult things to digest about this was that Justin Verlander wanted to be a Cub.
Yes.
He was begging for it.
Yes, so much so that the Cubs got involved very late, but they didn't have the money left. They didn't have enough money left to do it, is what Jed has said. He says, yes, we have regrets. Now, Jed says, yeah, we have big regrets. Verlander was hoping the Cubs could figure it out and waited until the last minute before he took that offer from Houston because he had to approve a trade.
Yeah. And the most difficult part about it is, for those of you that might not remember, in 2017, he went 5-0, 1.06 ERA, 34 innings pitched. I'm seeing only 4 runs allowed, only 17 hits, 43 Ks, and then obviously what he did in that playoffs. And this is one of, now we're really getting into kind of, maybe this because we lived through it. We're kind of getting into the meat now of the what ifs on this one, because I find this one incredibly intriguing, where if we all go back and think about the Cubs trying to defend their World Series title in 17, you know, what was the prevailing narrative walking out of that is that they ran out of gas, right?
Yeah.
That National Series grinded them down into dust, and they had nothing left when they took on the Dodgers.
Who were good.
They were great, right? But it's a great what if of who's on the mound. Is it John Lackey or is it Justin Verlander to kick off that series in Los Angeles? So when you look back at that one, I'm not going to say that I think the Cubs would have gone like back to back, but I would like to think that the window would have stayed open a little bit longer.
Listen, my buddy Cap always says that Quintana was the Buick. They thought they were getting a Maserati. Verlander is a Maserati, period. Some people thought he was running out of gas. He wasn't running out of gas. His Hall of Fame career kept ripping right through his time in Houston. The Cubs, forget 2017 in reality. Like, if you want to go beyond, like, what if they had Verlander instead of Quintana? Lots of things changed. They never probably signed Darvish.
No.
They never even go the Darvish route. So that experiment doesn't happen. You have Arrieta, you have Lester, Hendricks,
Mm-hmm.
and Verlander.
With the Dylan Cease still in your system too as well. We don't know if he was. They thought he might have been a bullpen guy, right? They never know if he would have been a front of the rotation guy, but he's still in your system.
The Astros gave up 3 of their top 11 prospects. I looked at the names; they're nobodies. So you never know if the prospects you gave up. Now maybe Eloy still would have been on there. Who knows? I don't know what the names were. All I know is that when Jed Hoyer was asked, he honestly just said, "Yeah, we have regrets." That's the big regret. How did we not get Verlander when he wanted to come here? It's like they had made all these moves and they weren't thinking ahead far enough to be like, oh, Verlander wants to be here? Hey.
It is one of it. This one is fun because it is a bit of one of those like pebbles that gets loose and then the dam sort of breaks open. Of then I'm with you. Did they sign you Darvish? Did they sign Tyler Chatwood? Did they sign Brandon Morrow? Does Theo Epstein really come to the conclusion that the offense is broken in 2018? If maybe a couple more of those games were 2-1 wins instead of 3-2 losses, does the narrative flip a little bit? I get that the offense needed a complexion change somewhere along those roads. But when you have a stud like Justin Verlander and a guy, you know, an ace, we've only seen so many aces in this town on the north side in the 21st century, right?
Yeah.
Wood, Pryor, John Lester, Jake Arrieta, and that could have been Justin Verlander. And that's what we're always going to have to think about and deal with.
I think they would have had a shot to beat the Dodgers in 2017 with Verlander. Obviously a better shot than they did with Quintana. I don't know about beyond that. Obviously the pitching's way better. But if the young guys still don't develop the way the Cubs all thought they were, like if Kris Bryant's back doesn't start, that doesn't impact Kris Bryant's health.
Yep.
That doesn't impact Javi's playing for, is he going to go down this path or is he going to go down? It doesn't impact Schwarber. It doesn't impact Albert Almora. It doesn't impact any of those guys. So I'm not sure, but I think 2017 would have been a much better chance at a repeat. I think there's a really good chance they went at least back-to-back World Series. Maybe they don't win the second one, but they're there. And I certainly like the rotation a lot better with Justin Verlander than I do with Quintana. That's, I guess, just obvious.
The final question I would have had with that would be, if we had made that deal, how long would he have been able to stay in a Cubs uniform?
I don't know.
Because eventually he would have been priced out, right? I mean, he ended up signing, what, a $40 million a year deal with New York. I mean, so the window might have actually stayed in the same capacity of that 2017, 2018, 2019 window. But damn it, I would have liked to have seen it.
Sure.
Tried.
And if you end up having to trade those guys because the young guys aren't going, imagine the haul you got back from Verlander.
Right.
Would have been pretty good.
Assets. Yeah.
All right. Number 6. What if Leon Durham fields the ball in 1984? Again, back to my childhood. This one is a stake right through the heart. It's like Dracula standing right here and sucking the blood out of my neck.
Dracula with those glasses on.
Leon Durham. Bull Durham. 7th inning, Game 5, NLCS. Tim Flannery reaches base, and they score the tying run to make it 3-3. The Cubs had a lead in the 7th inning of Game 5. Remember, these weren't 7-game series. Mm-hmm. This was it. This was the game to go to the World Series. They were on the verge of the World Series. All they had to do was get 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning. And he boots it. And then it should have been runner at third, 2 outs. Now, they still had Gwynn and Garvey coming up. So I can't say for sure the Cubs go on and win the game. But all those people that want to talk about the stuff in 03, to me, this is right there with it. And I know we'll talk about 03, but I'm telling you, they were close. They were close. They had a lead in the 7th inning of Game 5, and they would have faced the Tigers, who were a good team, like a 102-win team in the World Series. Man, I watched those. I sat there as a kid in middle school. I watched those first 2 games at Wrigley Field. The Cubs crushed the Padres. They were going to be able to hang with the Tigers. It was not going to be the same World Series.
Well, and from what I remember was that was the team with the mojo, right? I mean, They had Rick Sutcliffe throwing with his hair on fire.
Red Baron.
I would have loved to have seen Rick Sutcliffe, Jack Morris, Game 1 of a World Series. That would have been amazing. Just real quick, is that sports fan Luke Stuckmeyer's, is that like top 5 darkest day? Is that the one that stays with you? Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember, like, I was off working by the time 03 happened. I was off living in Texas. '84 was like the height of my Cubs fandom as a kid, right?
Yeah.
My dad didn't speak for like 10 days after that game. And my dad was not like this emotional, like, super hyper crazy Cubs fan.
I love it.
Dad the house was quiet for 10 days.
Yeah.
That was the first time in my life I knew the Cubs could even be good was '84. And then for that to be the way the season ended was just like, oh man, maybe there is something to this black cat. Maybe they're not meant to win.
Maybe it's never going to happen.
Maybe it's never going to happen.
I grew up with that in my life, that, you know what, maybe it's never going to happen. Silver lining about '84, though, really quick, it did make me a better baseball player as a Little League player, because I tell you, every single coach that I ever had told me not to be Leon Durham.
Don't be Leon
Get your
Durham.
glove on the ground and keep it on the ground until that ball gets into your glove and you throw to first base. So shout out to that. At least it made me a better ball player. But man, that's that one's tough.
Yeah.
Buckner and Durham, so close together.
'84 was a tough year in Cub fandom, let me tell you, because they were electric. All right, number 5 on our biggest what ifs in Cubs history, rank week here at CHGO. What if the Cubs never traded Hall of Famer Lou Brock? Well, okay, first of all, it was a 6-player deal for Ernie Broglio. Yeah, exactly. Brock immediately becomes a superstar in St. Louis. He hits .348 that rest of the season, and he leads the Cardinals of all teams to a World Series title. Okay? That was June of '64 when they traded him. The word was, like, for people that aren't sure about this trade, Lou Brock was one of the greatest base runners of all time. And from what again, not alive in '64, but from what I was told from people that were around, Cubs fans will say, you know what? I don't know if Lou Brock would have been exactly the same player with the Cubs because they didn't necessarily embrace his bold base running. The Cardinals did, and they encouraged it, and he blossomed into this player. Now, that's a pretty quick turnaround to be hitting .348 the rest of the season with 33 stolen bases after June. So I'm going to say he would have been that player anyways. And if you're asking me really, what if they didn't trade Lou Brock? Well, the Cubs added Fergie Jenkins 2 years later. So take Broglio out of the rotation. Put Fergie Jenkins in there. When you have already Banks and Santo and Williams, you realize what you have there? That's 3 Hall of Famers.
It's a pretty good team.
You add a 4th Hall of Famer to the team, and Fergie is 5. You're telling me they wouldn't have figured it out? The '60s would have been a lot better as a Cubs fan. Again, wasn't around for them, but those mid-'60s would have been a lot better than they were with Lou Brock.
Yeah, that's the one that I think about now just in 2025 is when you go down to Gallagher Way, would be, hey, honey, can I get a picture next to the Sandberg? Can I get a picture next to the Banks?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, can I get a picture next to the Brock? That's probably the one that I think about a little bit. And the Fergie, and would his number be on a flag somewhere up on a foul pole? The other one, too, as well, and this one is great right now because the trade deadline's right around the corner. Is this like ground zero for never trade in your division? Is this one of those great tall tales?
No, it's not. But you know what? It really bothers me even more about it. Again, wasn't alive for it. Shouldn't bother me. The Cardinals won the World Series with the guy, and he had a great career with them. Not only does Lou Brock stay with the Cubs in our scenario and join Banks and Santo and Williams in a lineup, he's not on the Cardinals.
Yes.
They're not winning the World Series in '64.
Mm-hmm.
So you're taking away from your hated rival, and you're putting this great player. It hurts. It hurts.
It's a bad trade. It's a bad one.
Most people consider it the worst trade in Cubs history.
Thankfully, what was it, in 1982, they did trade Ivan DeJesus for a certain guy named Ryan Sandberg, which is a good one, right? We like to tip our cap to that one.
It's either that or the Arrieta trade. Best trades in Cubs history for me.
The Arrieta trade gets us a World Series. So, and I love Rhino. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like childhood hero, one of the great 23s in Chicago history. But yeah, you know, when we're throwing that stuff out there too, just go ahead and trade so-and-so for Sonny Gray, or is Freddie Peralta available? And Mitch Keller right now.
I don't know. Joey,
can never happen again.
Yeah. We have more coming up in our what if list, but and we will get to the top 5. Like I'm telling you, some of these are going to just rip your heart out. There's no question about it.
It's getting worse.
But first, a word from our great sponsors.
Hey, I got to talk to you guys about Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. It's your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside, they've got everything you need to elevate your summer. What are some of the amazing features that makes the brand or product awesome? Well, it's a one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs. Just talk to their wonderful bud tenders, and they're going to get you all set up with their expertly curated menu. And if you're just starting out for the first time, don't worry. Their guidance there is going to help you, and you're going to have a great time. So if you're a pro, they've also got you covered with over 100 strains in the menu and new ones added daily. So visit sunnyside.com.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first online purchase. Enter a promo code HICHGO and check out the qualified exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders, and also for existing users. Use promo code CHGO50 for 50% off Cresco Lab brand items.
Sunnyside would have been helpful for some of these what ifs for a lot of people out there. Let me tell you about that. Hey guys, just like your favorite team needs a home field advantage, your home needs a home flooring advantage. Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals. We've all been to the big box store. You walk around aimlessly. The person helping you in their so-called flooring department might have been selling sinks and sump pumps yesterday, and they could be working in the garden center selling hydrangeas to you the next day. That's the problem. Empire Today, they live and breathe flooring. That's all they do. Their experts bring the showroom right to your home. And with Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. CHGO listeners, pay attention. You can get a $350 discount with the code CHGO. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday.com. Don't forget, $350 discount. All you got to do is type in our 4 letters, CHGO. That's money in your pocket. We are back on Rank Week, and we are ranking the top 10 biggest what ifs in Chicago Cubs history.
This gets real now.
Some of it's painful.
Yeah.
Frankly, most of it's painful. Possibly all of it will be painful. Number 10 was what if Cuban had purchased the Cubs? What if number 9, what if Greg Maddux never left? Number 8, what if the 69 Cubs don't collapse? Number 7, what if the Cubs got Verlander instead of Jose Quintana? Number 6, what if Leon Durham doesn't boot the ball in 84? Number 5, what if the Cubs never traded Lou Brock? Do you see a theme there, Joey?
I do.
Pain. Mr. T used to say pain. That's what this is. It's all pain.
Well,
it's an hour of pain.
After this next one, we got a couple doozies for you. So take your ibuprofen now or your Sunnyside. Get ready.
All right, number 4. Our 4th biggest what if in Chicago Cubs history. I love to do the Sammy Kiss at the end of every show. What if the Sammy Sosa trade with the White Sox never happened in March of 1992? A young Luke Stuckmeyer sitting at Valparaiso University in his dorm room, and he hears of this trade while listening to sports radio, sitting on the floor, and he says, man, I like George Bell. I don't know if Sammy Sosa is this good. Well, it worked out. You want to talk about great trades in Cubs history? We mentioned Sandberg and Arrieta. Sammy in 92 is a pretty good one.
If we also remember, this was a perm for a perm trade.
Yes, it
remember
was.
They both had beautiful, wonderful perms back then. I also remember this. I was sitting on a recliner chair at my aunt's house. She had just gotten a waterbed, so it was pretty rad at the time. And I remember, like, Sammy was the original Panther on the South Side, and they traded him over. I remember also watching his very first game. I believe he was playing center field at the time. And what did Sammy do? Oh, did he miss the cutoff man? And he just sailed the ball right to the back to the back fence. And he was young, he was wiry, he was fast. He eventually developed a little bit of power. The other one that I like to think,
little bit,
just a little bit. The other one I like to think about too is, remember, he got hit on the hand. He was sitting at 40 home runs. Got hit on the wrist. I think that was 96 or 97 before the 98 year. I'm kind of ready for my first hot take on this one. If the Cubs never trade for Sammy Sosa, I don't think we have a World Series title. I don't think it happens.
Why?
Because Sammy,
he wasn't around for it.
I understand, but Sammy was the catalyst that created the momentum that eventually pushed them to the edge of not only selling the team to the Ricketts, but also creating this, the lovable loser thing was something that was embraced. And then in 98, it was celebrated in a strange way that maybe this is their way out of it. He was a part of the 2003 team. And after the 2003 collapse, him being a part of it and one of the key cogs in that offensive lineup, 2 or 3 years later, what do? They're reloading the chamber and trying to do it again with Lou Piniella in 07, 08. Then they sell the team in 09. I just don't know, what does Wrigleyville look like if Sammy in 98 doesn't happen?
Two things changed Wrigleyville: Sammy Sosa and Harry Carey.
100%.
And together.
Right.
Together changed Wrigleyville.
And what's that famous Sports Illustrated cover article that, like, the party's here or something like that, and it was a loaded Wrigley Field. And that was when the kind of the conventional wisdom of, like, the Cubs are never going to win the World Series. After 98, I think we started having those conversations of, could they possibly one day win the World Series? And I think Sammy is a huge part of that. And I don't know what Cubs, Wrigleyville, what the organization, the franchise looks like if he never plays and doesn't hit what you have here, 545 home runs in a Cubs uniform.
Yeah. Well, I think the story's different for a lot of people, right? Yeah. Like, we glossed over the fact of he was wiry. He was wiry at the time. That's right. Things would have been different for the Cubs. Would the home run chase have been different if he's doing it in a White Sox uniform against Mark McGwire in a Cardinals uniform? Part of the charm of that was arch rivals literally playing in the same game.
That's a great point. And trading bombs every day.
It was Cubs Cardinals. You're not going to
division chase too.
You're not going to see that if he's on the White Sox. Yeah. Some would argue, if a tree falls in the woods but nobody's there to see it, did it actually happen? I don't know. I don't know if it would have happened. Like, would Sammy have been the same on the South Side? Would he have been enough to turn the Sox into what the Cubs are now? I don't know about that, but it's not inconceivable. Imagine Frank Thomas and Sammy Sosa in the same lineup for the primes of their career.
Yeah.
Like, they played together very briefly at the beginning. But remember, Sammy was wiry and just this kind of free-going guy. Frank Thomas is one of the greatest hitters in the history of the game. And does Sammy get away with some of his stuff as a member of the White Sox that he got away with the Cubs? Now, finally it caught up to him. They smashed his boombox and they had enough and all that stuff. And he's apologized for some of it. But I got to tell you, I don't know. Sammy admits to mistakes. He hasn't said the S word yet.
Yes.
But he's now admitted to mistakes.
He said a bunch of other letters of, I did whatever I can to play the game.
I've had conversations. I know one guy that's mad about the steroids era, and his name is Frank Thomas. Yeah. Big Frank doesn't like that he lost an MVP to somebody that was doing steroids. So I wonder, how is it different if Sammy finds out about this steroid thing in the Sox clubhouse with Big Frank? Because Sammy didn't want to be challenged, but let me tell you, Sammy, even in his biggest form, isn't the size of Frank Thomas.
No, and it's curious too. I mean, I know we're talking Cubs here, but if you think about the South Side back at that time, they had Tim Raines in left field, they had Robin Ventura at third base,
they had
Julio Franco at DH, and they were kind of rotating right fielders for a long time between Ellis Burks and Danny Tartabull during that time. So Sammy would have fit right in that right field area. But yeah,
the Sox might have won a World Series sooner than they did with Frank and Sammy in the same lineup. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
How would it have changed the Cubs? Greatly. Wrigleyville probably is a different look. Heck, baseball might be different. They were the two guys that saved baseball. I don't know if it's the same. So that's a huge what if.
Yeah,
that's why it
absolutely.
is number 4 on our list. All right, number 3.
Oh boy.
All right, let's.
All right, I need to stretch.
This one hurts.
This
Again,
one hurts.
I don't even
this
know
one's
what
mine. This is you're 84. This is mine.
This is a list that I don't know when we put it together. The bosses said, let's do a what if list for rank week. Were they trying to make me weep? Because most of Cubs history is weeping. You know, only recently was it good. There was the golden era, but most of my life was weeping.
I need a bib for this one.
Number 3.
Mm-hmm.
What if Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood stayed healthy? Oh, the dynamic duo. What we had going. Like, we want to talk about what if Maddox stayed and stuck around and they had Maddox in his prime and all those things. You had 2 of the best young pitchers in all of baseball. Maybe you had your Maddox and your Glavine, but they could not stay healthy. Pryor's career ended at age 25. I covered those early those teams in like 04, 05. Like, I saw Mark Pryor doing the towel drill more than I saw him pitching in games, right?
I read that so many times.
In 03, they were both so good. And even though it got away from the Cubs, as we know, and we will talk about, the future was so bright with these 2 guys that you thought they were going to mow down batters for the next decade together. And it didn't happen. And it was the first lesson in my life that taught me, boy, pitchers can get hurt, and that's a problem. And it hasn't changed in baseball yet.
No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. And we're not exactly doing the pitch counts that we used to back in the day either.
Well,
you know, you mentioned Maddox, and in many ways, the way Pryor's at times people thought were flawless mechanics, and his control was very Maddox-like. And Kerry Wood very much was of the ilk and generation of the Roger Clemens and Nolan Ryans that I grew up on. And what did Nolan Ryan do? He pitched till he was 45.
Yep.
And Roger Clemens, another guy with a different story altogether, also pitched deep into his career.
Yeah.
I'd love to even boil it down even more. What if Mark Pryor doesn't run into Marcus Giles heading to second base? And I just wonder what would happen with that 2004 season.
But that is part of that is part of staying healthy. I don't know. Like, that was a big deal in 04. Pryor did have some mechanics problem. Like, everybody thought it was perfect, but it wasn't.
Yep.
Kerry Wood, when he throws his strikeout game at Wrigley Field, could somebody envision, boy, this guy might have this? This is so incredible. How is his arm going to hang on? He had all kinds of weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, he had just weird injuries, and then he ended up going to the bullpen. He plays with other teams. This was a dynamic duo, and I know most people. I don't want to say most people. There is a large section of Cubs fans that put 100% blame on Dusty Baker, because there were times where these guys. You mentioned pitch counts. Mm-hmm. There were games where some of these guys were throwing 130, 140. Something you would never
Game
do
2 of the NLCS, right? Aren't we up? We're up 8-1, and we still have Pryor going out there pitching, and I think that's the big one that they talk
Arm
about.
preservation and pitch counts. Things are a little bit different today. I don't know if it's a real thing, if it's factual. In this case, whatever happened to Pryor and Wood, it changed the future for a long time.
Yeah, see, I can't like buy into that personally, because then that opens up the sliding doors of what if John Lester came in relief in Game 7, you lose Game 7, then John Lester gets hurt for the rest of his. You know, you can play that game with a lot of different kinds of scenarios.
We are. It's the whole show.
No, get ready. That's number 1. That's number 1 coming up. And the other part I think about too is that what if just one of them had stayed healthy?
Yeah.
What if just one of them would have been a front of the rotation guy as Carlos Zambrano was coming up? And we were having that, is he an ace type of conversation.
Zambrano and Pryor pushing forward.
You could still go out and get Maddox. You still would have had one more year of Matt Clement. When we talk about Pryor and Wood staying healthy, because Wood ended up coming back, and you're correct, he was a closer for a couple of years and contributed, and Pryor just never came back. I just wonder if just one of them was able to come back. And would Mark Pryor be a pitching coach today? Because he had to go through all different kinds of trials and tribulations, right?
Well, I mean, if you want to expand that far, you can look at it and say, what if they stayed healthy? Well, if they both stayed healthy, you're looking at potentially 2 Hall of Famers. That's the type of talent they had.
And where the Cubs have signed them.
Well, that I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. But Pryor and Wood's health was a big part of the collapse for the Cubs for a while, and it looked like it was going to be the glory days.
Yes,
it really did, because that pitching staff, when Zambrano came along, it was like, wow, they have so much young pitching that's elite that they don't know what to do with it. And then all of a sudden it was Zambrano.
Yep.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it became a problem. All right, so we're down to our final 2, and maybe a little bit extra as well. But first, a word from our great sponsors here at CHGO. Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake, kicking off summer with big savings all month. Go in today to shop their summer sales event and drive home with $10,000 off MSRP on new Chevy models. Check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. And with one of the area's largest inventories of Chevys, you're sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. Plus, Ray's Price Promise lets you shop confidently, because the price you see is the price you pay. Don't miss out on their summer sales event going on all month long for $10,000 off MSRP on new Chevy models. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. I could go for a nice Chevy right now.
Yeah, nice one with a little air conditioning right now. It's been a little muggy out. You know what I could go for? You know what I could go for? We're doing this what if episode right now, and let me ask you a question. What if you didn't lose your sunglasses 30 days after you purchased them?
Yeah.
What if you were like me and you stopped buying $5 pairs of sunglasses because you know you're going to lose them and you look like an idiot and you actually want to get into style?
I could have invested the money I saved.
Yeah, exactly. Lose them on the roof of your car, lose them at a gas station. We've all been there before, and that's when I found Shady Rays, and people, trust me, it has completely changed the game. These sunglasses are made for real life, seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here is the wildest part. If you lose or break them, even on day one, which I would probably do, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. So now I actually can wear my sunglasses stylishly without fear. So here's what you got to do. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 35% off. Polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
This is what we like to call Rank Week here at CHGO, and we're all ranking. Each team is doing it. So if you're a fan of some of the other teams, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, the Bears, they got a Rank Week too, full of what ifs.
There's a guy named Derrick Rose that played in this town.
Now,
maybe that will end up in the episode.
There are some that are probably just as sad as the Cubs.
Here we go.
But I don't know if any stack up to exactly what the Cubs are. So number 2 on our greatest what ifs in Chicago Cubs history. Number 2. What if the Cubs beat the Marlins in 2003? Let it soak in for a second. This one hurts. Again, for me, not as bad as 84, but it hurts. They had a chance. Tuesday, October 14th, 2003. That's the game we all know. There's the pop-up. Moises Alou goes over. And Cubs think it's fan interference. Some poor man, Steve Bartman, is shunned for the game. Just enjoying the game, and he gets blamed for the rest of his life. Unfair, because they still had a chance to win that game. They still had a chance to field a ground ball. They still had a chance to win Game 7. So I don't know why we even call it what we call it, which I'm not going to call it anymore. What if they beat the Marlins in 03? All I know is after that game in Game 6, the Cubs actually admitted to us that they booked their flights home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They still had a game to play with Kerry Wood on the mound, who hadn't lost at Wrigley Field in 6 weeks. And
who homers in the game, in Game 7.
We had players on that team booking their flights home.
This is mine. 84 is yours.
I know, yeah.
03, this one's mine. I'm a freshman in college. You know how you said your dad didn't talk for several days afterwards? I didn't go to class for a week. Sorry, Columbia College.
It had nothing to do with baseball, but you didn't go for a week.
It had something to do with physical recovery, mental anguish. What is it? You see those things where you go into the woods and you gutturally scream. That's what I feel like I did for a week after this one. Yeah, man, this one's really tough to take. What if the Cubs beat the Marlins in 2003? I think they beat the Yankees in that World Series. I think they had the horses. I think they had the starting rotation. Again, I always think about, everyone focuses on Game 6 and that inning. I focus in on Game 7, to be honest with you, because Moises still hits a bomb deep into the night for a 2-run bomb. Kerry Wood goes deep. We had that lead, and I'll never forget, I was kind of like I was in Lakeview, and after Kerry Wood hits that bomb, I'm like, I got to get down to Wrigley as quick as I can. And it was great. In 2003, you're walking from house to house. People are in their front yards back when a lot more people lived around there. But each television was on. And from each house I went down, Kyle Farnsworth was blowing the lead. Yeah. Each house I walked down further down there. And man, this one hurts.
5-3, you up 5-3.
And we're doing this list. You grow up your whole life with trading Lou Brock and the Billy Goat and the Black Cat in 1969 and Leon Durham and Will Clark in 1989 and Kerry Wood blowing out his arm. And this one for me was just, man, maybe this will never happen. Maybe this isn't in the cards. Maybe the Cubs will never win the World Series, but I think if they beat the Marlins, I do think they go on to win that World Series in 2003.
Listen, the minute Alou makes the reaction that he makes, I thought to myself, they are cursed. This is never happening, and they're about to collapse, to which they did. So I'm not sure. Then they were down 3 runs in Game 7, and Kerry Wood hits that home run, and Alou hits it, and you think to yourself, wait a minute, this could still happen, right? You have that hope. But I sort of wonder that even if the Cubs won that series against the Marlins and they came back and they fought through that, if they were so mentally fragile that they let that pop up down the left field line, then influence a booted ball, and then influence guys going to buy their plane tickets home for the next day. If they were that mentally fragile and there was so much weight for all the years of Cubs losing, Cubby occurrences, as Lou used to call them, that they might have had something like that happen against the Yankees anyway.
Did they beat Jeter?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, because Jeter wasn't thinking that way. And Jeter wasn't booking flights. Yeah,
my only pushback on that one is just that, you know, the Marlins had Josh Beckett in that series, who was amazing against the Yankees in that World Series, and I would have gathered and guessed that Kerry Wood and Mark Pryor were on the heaters that they were on, and they would have been able to put together some pretty great performances in that. Again, we'll never know. I mean, the Marlins swept the Yankees.
Yeah.
I mean, they swept them right out of town. It wasn't even really that competitive. You know what I mean? When we talk about Jeter and the dynasty and all that stuff. But no, I think that's a great point. And it is funny, the mental psyche of not just players in series like that, the mental psyche that we learned about later on, but also the burden that they were under and the weight that it all started to carry as they got closer and closer and closer. And in the end, we blame a guy with headphones on his head.
Not me.
I don't.
But people do.
But there are plenty of players and moments and situations and lack of execution that made me miss a whole week of school and eat $30 at McDonald's that night. And so, you know, yeah, it's a sad one. That's my darkest day as a Cubs fan.
And all the future Cubs that were on that team, Juan Pierre, Todd Hollinsworth, who put the Marlins ahead for good? Derek Lee.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But it's what makes the 2016 Cubs so remarkable. So here you go. Biggest what-ifs in Chicago Cubs history. If you haven't figured this one out, you're not watching Cubs baseball and you're not a fan. The number one biggest what-if in Cubs history, what if it never rained in Cleveland during Game 7 of the World Series? Obvious Shirts has the shirt, right?
Yep.
What if I told you 17 minutes of rain would wash away 108 years of tears? I've got the shirt. I think it's my favorite Obvious shirt. I was there. I don't know the answer. I watched the champagne go from the... By that point, I was in the tunnel for the home run. I watched the home run on a tiny TV hanging in that Cleveland stadium, not even flat screen. Hanging down there, and I'm sitting there with all the media. We're watching it. Kerry Wood standing off to the side with his family. The home run, and the building starts rocking because we're on a delay. We hear the rocking, and we're like, huh? What? Look up. They wheel all the champagne out of the Cubs clubhouse and
want
all of it into the Cleveland clubhouse. Then the rain delay hits and you're not sure what to make of it. I still think that's it. They're done. But what makes the 2016 Cubs different than the 2003 Cubs, who when they faced the adversity of something silly like a pop-up down the left field line, the Cubs started booking flights home. The 2016 Cubs went in and listened to Jason Hayward's speech. It's the difference, right? I don't know what happens if it doesn't rain. Cleveland had all the momentum. There were many times I thought the Cubs are going to blow this and the weight's going to be too much. And even Joe Madden can't pull them out of this with his rah-rah speeches and the team and all that. Jason Hayward's speech, we're the best team in baseball. We're the best team in baseball for a reason. Now we're going to go show it. We're going to play like the score is 0-0. You got to stay positive, fight for your brothers, stick together, and we're going to win this game. That's the opposite of booking a flight home.
That is the opposite of 1-2-3 Cancun. 100%.
So I don't know what would have happened. My gut feeling is if it doesn't rain, the Cubs lose the World Series.
So I got to ask you, because you're in it. You were in the tunnel of that game. So from when David Ross hits the home run up to the Rajai Davis home run, is it pins and needles? You mentioned the champagne starts rolling in. Does it start to formulate in your head that I have to get ready for the Cubs World Series?
Yes, it's
right?
sort of surreal. My seat is in the right field corner.
Yeah,
with the media. And I did what I do. I went to the concession stand and I started binge eating. I was eating dogs. I was eating dogs with chili on, hot dogs with chili and cheese on them. I was just eating. And I'm watching these Cleveland fans just in their sorrow. And I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. This is what I dreamed of, covering the Cubs in the World Series. All I ever wanted in TV. And here I am. And right now, I think it's going to happen. The only thing I can do to make it happen is just to eat. And I ate, and I ate, and I ate. So when I got down there in the tunnel and Rajai Davis hits that home run, I not only felt like I got kicked in the stomach, I had a stomach ache.
Yeah.
So I thought they were done for. And the look on, I'll tell you this, the look on Kerry Wood's face, he thought they were done for. I don't want to put words in his mouth. He thought they were done for.
But no, it was a giant here we go again. I will tell you, so I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I took a one-way ticket and I flew home for the World Series because there's no way I wasn't going to be in the city that I grew up in and love and not be there. Mm-hmm. Game 7, I'm at Holiday Club at Irving Park in Sheridan. I convinced my parents, who hate coming into the city, to come down and watch the game with me. They're all with me. The Rajai Davis home run hits. And honestly, the thing that happened was I stepped outside with my buddy Dom Fortini, and it's raining out. And I'll never forget, we looked at each other, and it was almost like we knew the exact thing. And I honestly thought that the Cubs were going to play like a 22-inning game. I literally thought it was like...
I couldn't have taken that. Because I'd have been watching it on this little TV, and like I'm covered in plasticware.
I thought it was going to be one of those where the sun is going to come up and the Cubs will win the World Series. One of these weird, crazy moments. And as a fan, we kind of locked in and said, well, here we go. Let's do it. I don't know if the Cubs would have won the World Series if there was a rain delay because I'd never seen them do it before. But God bless that it happened.
Amen, that cloud.
Oh, my God. Partly cloudy skies, scattered thunderstorms. I mean, Tom Skilling, what did you do that night?
There was a thought that it was going to rain all night long.
Right.
That was a thought.
And it was raining in Chicago when the game started. I mean, everyone was waiting outside the bar, and it was raining, and no one cared.
By the time I got out of that clubhouse, I will just tell you that the pictures that I took with people, and, you know, we're just having fun at that point. We got champagne bottles and stuff because our work is done. It was still pouring.
Yeah.
And that field was soaked. So the crazy thing is, even after they come back and win it, like, what if they weren't even able to restart that game? Like, there was a window to play the game. What if there wasn't that window? It was storm.
Yep.
17 minutes later, they're back on the field. They finish it, and it unleashes a storm after that for hours.
Yeah. I mean, I got one more what if for you because I think about this all the time.
This isn't on the list, though, is it?
It's not on the list, but it's part of this game, though, is that if the weather doesn't come in and out the way it does it change the wind trajectory, and does KB's ball go out?
Oh, boy.
Instead of it dying
now
at
you're
the
going
track.
deep.
Instead of it dying at the track and Albert Almora tags up from first base, does that go out and we win the World Series because KB hits a home run?
It's the biggest it might be the biggest, one of the biggest what ifs, if not the biggest in all of baseball history, sports history, because it was the Cubs against Cleveland and all of this drought and these two teams, and whoever lost was going to be cursed for the rest of their life. And if you remember 69 and you remember 03 and you remember 84, if it had happened again in Game 7 after having this lead in 2016, I think we're still sitting here and they haven't won a World Series.
Oh my God.
I really do.
Yeah. No, it's 100% possible. And maybe my final one for you is when they make the movie about the Chicago Cubs and Jason Hayward makes a speech, or they make a series out of it and it goes on Netflix. Who's playing Luke Stuckmeyer? Who do you want?
I mean, is Brad Pitt still alive?
Yes, this is a what if. Of course he's still alive.
If Brad Pitt's
Pitt
still alive, it's got to be Brad Pitt, you know?
Yeah.
With the Fight Club abs, most likely. Do we have time for anything left? Do we have an honorable mention? Can I throw an honorable mention? We don't have time. What if the Cubs didn't have lights in 84? The whole 84 lights thing was the reason they played 2 at home and then 3 in San Diego is they didn't have lights.
Yeah.
So it would have been a different scenario. Also, the World Series would have been a different scenario. It all would have been crazy.
Do you take any credence or currency in
them
playing the day games and the heat?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's easily the best one. What if Theo turns down the job at Starbucks?
Oof. Oh my gosh.
Well, we're sort of living that scenario right now.
Then we're overpaying for Mike Rizzo in 2013, 2014, or Dave Dombrowski.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess we'll never know. But the Theo one's a good one.
Well,
what if he goes to
Madden?
Starbucks, they get his order wrong, and he's like, I'm out of here.
Which has never happened before.
Some kid at Starbucks writes the wrong name. They write Jed on it instead, and he's like, what? I'm not Jed.
Thor Epstein?
It's not meant to be. I'm going back to Boston.
Oh, I don't like to think about that one.
Now, that's a ridiculous one.
That one keeps me up at night.
But the rain one still keeps me up at night. I still have a stomach ache every time I think about it.
Oh, it's one of the best nights.
It was a great night.
I ran to Grace and I got stopped by people on horses because no one was getting
I
past.
hope they were police.
They were police.
Oh, okay. Otherwise, it was just people riding random horses.
Someone did actually pour a shot from a second floor apartment, and I tried to, you know what I mean? Because who cares?
All right. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Rank Week, the biggest what ifs in Cubs history. Don't forget, we've got one for each of our teams, so make sure you check out the one from our Bulls guys, Blackhawks, Bears, White Sox. We got a lot of what ifs in this city, and you're about to hear about them.
We all silly like the mayor.